Hello, I'm Yngwie Malmsteen, Yngwie Malmsteen, and welcome to my video here. We're going to talk a little bit about my style of playing, and hopefully you're going to learn something. And today we're going to talk about picking phrases, legato phrases, harmonic minor, and diminished chord progressions and so forth. And hopefully you're going to enjoy it as much as I am. And if you want to play along, this is the note you tune to. Here we go. Alright, now we're going to talk about some picking phrases on one string, the top E, which are actually tuned down to E flat, so you got to tune to E flat. This is from a song called Evil Eye, from my first solo album, Yngwie Malmsteen's Rising Force, and here it is. Okay, that was the normal speed, and here it is a little bit slower. Okay, that was something from Evil Eye. I use a very stiff pick. It's a 1.5 millimeter Dunlop, actually. And some people find it hard to play with those, but I find it better for accurate picking. And for that particular thing, I always do something called alternate picking. Down, up, something like this. You know, so you can get lots more speed instead of you only go down or only up. You do one down, one up, or up and down. And you can do all sorts of different things. Here's another example of the alternate picking version, although it's only one note, or maybe you can just slide the finger up and down. And it's a slightly different right-hand technique there. Versus well, it seems like if you play only on one string and play very fast, it seems like I seem to anchor the hand more to the pickguard, whereas when I do like a alternate up and down on a string, it's a little different. I don't know exactly why. Everybody asks me why, but I just find that more efficient for me. Yeah, it's mostly the wrist. It's not the arm, is it? Like that, you know. It seemed to me that my technique sort of evolved very quickly into one way, and basically what I think it is, it's basically it's the most efficient way to do it with the least amount of work. It's called, I think it's called economical playing or something like that. In other words, you don't move your left hand too much when you do on a faster. You just move it as much as you possibly have to, no more. Same thing with the right hand. So you shouldn't go like this, you should go like this. Very small movements and efficient movements. You know. Aldo Meola has got an exceptional picking technique. I, however, don't use his style at all. He has a completely different way to do it. He doesn't even anchor his hand to the guitar. He plays with his hand totally free, which is good for him. It's not good for me, and that's why the way I do it is just because that's the way it feels good to me. So in other words, nobody really has to do it in any specific way. Whatever is right for them, you know. I've found. Okay, now I'm going to show you some more or less trademark lines I do on a single string. It could be done on any string. In this case, we do it on E string again, high E. And one of them goes like this. something like that, and slowly that would be the form of it. Is that was 2 more strings there, fortunately. Another one I use also very, very often is a downward one. Slowly. That could be done on any string, in any key. In this case it was an E string and it was in F sharp minor. Okay, the downward pattern that I showed you can also do up. It would be like this. Versus down. Alright, now we're going to talk a little bit about legato, where the left hand does most of the work and this one does very little. One example would be, or you know, you can do, or you can pick it as well if you want. That's without, this with the picking, this is without. That could be done in all sorts of different ways. This was in E minor on the E string only. Okay, here's a good example on how little the right hand actually means when you play legato. You can even put your right hand over here and just muffle the strings and do whatever you want. Whatever you want, you know, stuff like that. And you can do that on all strings too, but we're talking about the one string now. And here is just an example I'm going to improvise now, where it's very little picking. It's just basically a picking for each 3 or 4 notes, and most of the work is done with the left hand. You know, you can do it something like this. Here's an example of a harmonic minor scale on all strings, and it's off of a track called 1622, Overture 1622, from my new album Magnum Opus. It goes something like this. Okay, here's the same example, a bit slower, slowed down. Here's another example of alternate picking, although it's on all strings. It's quite difficult. Something like this. When I was very young, I listened a lot to Deep Purple and Richie Blackmore and that type of thing, and it's nice, but it got a little stale for me, a little bit, because if it's in G, it's here. If it's in C sharp, it's here. So I like to start playing a little more linear lines, like that. Which actually what it is more like minor scales and so forth rather than the pentatonic. And I just find it much more expressive, and it just tended to be something that I really dug. To throw together lines with in scales then of course, and like arpeggios and diminished lines and Phrygian and so forth and so on, rather than just a regular blues thing. So it's just a matter of taste, I just felt that most guitar players sounded a little weird word, inbred in a way, because most guitar players had too many similarities, and it became a little bit, limiting for me. That's why I started playing the more linear way, more like a violinist. And that is the reason for that. Well, now we're going to obviously talk about some minor scales that I frequently use and phrases. One of them is from a song called Far Beyond the Sun. It goes like this. You can play that slow also. That's harmonic minor, which is an augmented seventh. In other words, let's say it's an E minor scale, the seventh wouldn't be D, it would be D sharp. And if you, that's something I use very often. And you can do that in Phrygian modes as well. That was from the opening I'll Never Die. And what else? Rising Force. That's some things I use very often. Basically, it's all based on minor scales and in patterns, basically, something like that. It's quite simple if you just figure out the scales first and then practice a lot on it. The funny thing is that I've never considered myself a fast guitar player. I've never deliberately sort of tried to play fast, I've always tried to put a lot of substance into what I play. So even if it's done fast, and it would be played slow, it would be melodic anyway. It would have some sort of meaning. A lot of guitar players, when they play fast, they play repetitions like that. Whereas I go more linear and more in arpeggios, that type of thing. And okay, yeah, so I play quite fast now and again, but I never really looked at it as a very, like an incentive to play. As far as the followers goes, they say imitation is, the finest form of flattery or something like that, and that's fine. A The only thing that sometimes upset me is that a lot of people copy exactly what I do and they don't give me credit for it. But then again, that happens, you know what I mean? You know, no big deal. Paganini, Vivaldi, Tchaikovsky, all the violin concertos, some of the Bach stuff. He's quite technical, but it's always very beautiful. And that's, I mean, I wouldn't put myself in the same level as them, of course, but those are my sort of role models when it comes to composition and improvising and playing. So I always try to put as much melody and beauty, even though it's fast, you know. So that, I think, is very important. When I look back at the records now, I know I could do it better now. But when I did them, it was the best I could do. So I must say I liked them all. It was the best. I've always tried my very best. I think I like the Seventh Sign. I like Trilogy, the first one. And the one album I've been working on lately is called Magnum Opus. I'm very, very pleased with that one. I think that must be my very favorite. But I also like Eclipse. I like the live album. I'm not too crazy about Odyssey for some reason, although it was a very popular album and sold in many copies. I think that Trilogy, Seventh Sign, Rising Force, and Magnum Opus are the ones I feel most proud of. I also quite like my Alcatraz album with Graham Bonnet. I thought that was very good. So all the songs I've written are like, almost like my children or something, you know. You know, if you have 10 children, you don't like one better than the other. You know, they all have their own qualities. I am quite proud of everything, you know, because I would never leave anything on an album that I didn't think was up to par, you know. There's one song that I always enjoy very much to play. It's Far Beyond the Sun. It's from my first soul album. I've always liked that song, and I always like to play it live. You know, it's just one of those songs I really like playing live, you know, because it's a lot of guitar runs and stuff. It's kind of fun, you know. But I like to play everything. All right, we're back here, and now we're going to talk about some harmonic minor scales and the relative scales to that, which is called Phrygian. I don't know where to start exactly, but we can start with an E Phrygian scale, which would go like this. That's E. Now, if you play exactly the same notes as I played now, but you start on A and end on A, you end up with an A harmonic minor. Harmonic that goes like this. In other words, it's exactly the same notes. So if you play an A minor chord, you get a harmonic minor. But if you play an E chord, you play exactly the same phrase, but it's two different things. And that a lot of people confuse those things. You can also incorporate diminished to that, would be on the major third of the E, like that. And then you can also use that in A harmonic minor. So in other words, everything is quite simple, it's very logical, very mathematical, so if you just open a little one door, it's all there in front of you. So that's it. Okay then, now we're going to talk a little bit more about the different patterns and phrases within the harmonic minor and Phrygian, which is relative. Okay, and for simplicity, we'll stay with the A minor and the E Phrygian, which are relative. Okay, here's a thing you can do in both. Slow. That would work in both A minor harmonic and E Phrygian. What else? Well, you can do the scales, as I said. I'll do that again. That's an A minor. If you do exactly the same scale, but you start on E and end on E, you go. And I do often also riffs that are that base the whole song on the riff in Phrygian, which is A minor, E Phrygian, same as I said before. For instance, there's a song called Voodoo from my new album Magnum Opus. It goes like this. That's a very typical E Phrygian riff, which is also in A minor. It's all relative. There you have it. Okay, now we're going to talk about something they also do very frequently, borrowed heavily from Baroque classical music, mainly Bach, stuff like that. And here's an example from the album Magnum Opus, and from the song Vengeance. Here it is slow. And another example of that is like the introduction of the same song, Vengeance, from the album Magnum Opus. But you can do that in a lot of different ways. You can do like this. As I said, there's no boundaries whatsoever. Once you have the scales down, practice a lot, and there you have it. Well, it was mainly Bach, really. I mean, the reason I started playing the way I do mainly is from classical music, and Bach, Paganini, Vivaldi, and so forth. Hey-yaw. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about diminished runs, which I use also very frequently in the Phrygian mode, also in harmonic minor mode. I usually do them in 3-string arpeggios, such as like that. And diminished scale, basically what it is, it's every note is a third, minor third interval, like this. Okay? So if you play, for instance, an E Phrygian, start your arpeggio, diminished arpeggio, on the major third. Such as that. And that's how I incorporate the diminished in things. It can also be done with an augmented fifth in an E minor scale, for instance, an E minor now. That would be that one. And then suspended B, back to E. It's just, you know, also very classically influenced chord progressions and so forth and so on. Okay, here is a diminished arpeggio in a slower pace. Okay? And how you move up, each fret should be a third, minor third, so it's 3 frets each time, and it's exactly the same pattern. And that can be done in any scale or any mode, so to speak, but that is diminished arpeggio. And here's how the right hand does the diminished arpeggios. Slow. I do a little drill there, which you don't really have to do. You can do it depending on what you want to do, but that's it. Well, the reason I started playing, like, you know, these pedal notes and arpeggios and diminished and everything like that is strictly my classical influence. I listened a lot to classical music when I was younger, and it sort of snuck up on me. And I started thinking more in classical terms than the standard blues rock thing. So it's 100% classical, that's what it is. Here's some other examples of diminished things, but they're not arpeggios, they're more like lines, you know. So basically just play the do-do-ba, the scale as it is. Each note in diminished thirds, basically. Okay, here's a combination of the E Phrygian, A harmonic minor, and diminished all in one. Well, I played the Strat for about 22 years now, and as far as I'm concerned, there is nothing that could even come close to this. The whole design of the body, with the contour and the tremolo the way it is, and the pickups, and the whole thing is just perfect. But you gotta have a Ferrari sticker on the back, otherwise it's not good. You gotta have that. Now, honestly, it's just everything about it. The weight, the look. It looks great, doesn't it? And I can't say enough good things about it. I have a couple guitars with 24 frets. In fact, I had one of my Stratocasters. I can show it to you later. I have one of my Stratocasters that there was extra frets put on, so it's 24 frets, and the different pickup the pickup would be back one. But I rarely use it. I almost always use exactly this type of Strat. This color. I like the color. All right. What I do to my guitars is mainly I do the scallop neck. I don't know if you can see that. In between the frets, it's like concave, and I put extra big frets on it. Dunlop 6000s, and I put an AG3 DiMarzio here and an AG3 DiMarzio here. I leave the Fender pickup here. Disconnect these two, put a brass nut on it, and always take away one of the string trees. And that's how I customize. This particular one is a 1971 that I bought very recently. But this is exactly the same as the one guitar I've used for many, many years. The one that's on the cover of the first album, Out of the Fire, stuff like that. But other than that, it's a stock Strat. I never change the tremolo. They're always the same. And there you have it. Here we have a 1971 Strat that I changed the pickups to DiMarzios, back and front, not in the middle, and scalloped the neck and put the jumbo frets on, and a brass nut. And here we have a brand new Stratocaster from Fender Japan, actually, that is more or less made exactly like this, but you buy it in the store and it's just the same. Two DiMarzios, the scallops, and brass nut and all that stuff. And it looks the same because I worked very closely with the people from Fender, and for them to come up with this particular guitar. So if you want a guitar that is just like mine, buy one of these. It's even got my name on top, if you can get that in the camera, right there. Which one does? This one doesn't, because it's an older one. But these are very similar in sound and playing and everything. These two tone controls I disconnect because they're always on full, and if you disconnect them, you get a little less impedance, so you get a little more output on this here. And I used to disconnect the middle pickup too, but I don't do that anymore. But I only use. You hear that hum like that? These don't hum, not at all. This one tends to hum a bit. I mainly use that pickup and that pickup, and this is for that pickup and this is for this. And when I play, I do a lot of things like this, and that could make this move around, which I don't want. That's why I disconnect them. I use Ernie Ball's 8 to 48. So it's very light on top and very heavy on the bottom. And the picks are Jim Dunlop, 1.5 millimeter, but I have them made in white instead of purple with my name on it. When you play with the pick on these strings, it gets slight, small, grooves or notches in the end. So that when you play very fast here on the treble strings, it could get caught and stuff, and I don't like that. I like it to be totally smooth, so I can do all the picking techniques that I do. All right, now I'm going to give you a little demonstration of everything we spoke of today: the picking, the legato, the harmonic minor, the Phrygian diminished, all of that. And I'll just improvise something and see what happens, okay? How's that? There you have it. All right, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you also could learn something from it. And I'll tell you what, I'll see you soon again, all right? Take it easy. Bye.